Oh, Mom, if you're watching this, stop it right now. I'm making your gift. Don't spoil it. Turn it off. Stop, leave my website. Go do something else. I'm watching. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Renaissance Woodworker. I'm Shannon Rogers, I'm your host. Welcome into my shop. So it's that time of year again. Every year I try to highlight one of the little gifts I turn at my lathe. And this year, something different. It's this miniature pepper and/or salt mill. This is available from Penn State Industries. That's PennStateInd.com. The mini salt and pepper mill. It's actually, since it is one of the new products, I'm pretty sure you can find it highlighted on their homepage. But just go to the projects section, look under pepper mills, and you'll see this miniature salt and pepper mill. Its product number is PK Grind 5. It comes with all the hardware and the parts that you need. Also available through Penn State is an accessory kit of drill bits that you really need to get the blank prepared. Now you certainly don't have to get those from Penn State. You need a 1.5-inch Forstner bit. It's really not all that rare. A 21/32 brad point or twist drill bit. Again, if you've got a typical drill index, you can probably find this. And then a 1/16-inch Forstner bit. This was something that I didn't have on hand, and I had to go ahead and get it from Penn State. While I was there, I got a Forstner bit extender. One of the holes you have to drill, this 1/16-inch hole, is actually 3.5 inches deep. And no matter what the travel on the quill of your drill press is, the bit length itself is not long enough to do that. And your chuck actually runs into the hole and you won't drill any deeper. So the extender is kind of important. If you can't get that, we'll talk about that in a minute, you can still deal with this project. So the last thing that I had to get from Penn State Industries was this expanding rubber drum. And it's got a nut down here on the bottom. As you tighten it down, it squeezes this rubber drum and it causes it to expand. This is what we actually use to chuck it up in the lathe with the addition of a drill chuck or a Jacobs chuck. It's basically a drill bit chuck just like this with a Morse taper on it that fits into the headstock of your lathe. You'll also need a conical center for your live center. So the blank required for this is a 3-inch square blank that is 4.25 inches long. There's a little bit of fudge room in the length, but 4.25 inches will give you kind of the optimal amount of storage of the pepper grains and salt grains, as well as you do have a certain amount of travel on the adjusting nut of this whole mechanism. So go for 4.25 inches and you really can't go wrong. Pick and choose your stock wisely here. I'm making about 10 of these, and I'm using some walnut, I've got some spalted curly maple, I've even got some cherry, and I've got a block of marble wood. And I got to tell you, I've turned one of the marble woods so far, and that wood is really hard. We are drilling an in-grain hole here, so the drill press really gets a workout if you're using a really dense hard wood. If you want to use something like cocobolo or ebony, you might think twice about that, or just prepared to spend a long time on a slow speed on your drill press. The first thing you do with a 1/2-inch drill press, after you've marked your centers on your blank, starting from the bottom of the blank, you want to drill in 3/8 of an inch deep. That 3/8 of an inch is basically the recess that holds the whole grinding mechanism, and the pepper comes out here. So 3/8 of an inch deep. I basically just mark 3/8 inch down on the side, bring my drill press down, line it up with that, set the depth stop on the drill press. Really nothing crazy or new there. From there, using the hole, the center that's already poked here from the Forstner bit, you take your 1/16 Forstner and you drill down from there, you drill down 3.5 inches from the outside edge. That 3.5 inches really gives you the optimal amount of space in the inside the form to actually store the pepper and or salt grains. If you can't get an extender like this, and you probably can only drill about 2 to 2.5 inches deep without it, then you only have a compartment of 2.5 inches long, which just means you can't hold as much salt or pepper inside the mill. It's not the end of the world. So drill as deep as you can with this, no deeper than 3.5 inches. Then, again, referencing off the center you've already drilled, use your 21/32 drill bit and drill all the way through out the other side. Back it up with a backer block so you get a nice clean exit. This is a very visible area where the handle slips in. This hole is also an exact fit for this handle. It should be relatively tight. Once that is drilled out, you're essentially ready to turn it. Now, there's one thing that's not written in the instructions on this that come from Penn State Industries. They tell you to go ahead and turn it, and then when it's time to install it, to pre-drill holes in the bottom that this little chrome grate fits into. Well, the first one I turned, I followed their instructions, and it ran into a problem gripping and holding this round form without damaging it and trying to drill it. So while the blank is still square and you can clamp it very easily, come in with a drill bit, and we're talking very small screws here. This is probably, I think it's a 1/16 inch drill bit, and you use the chrome piece in the kit and mark the holes, and then just come in here and drill them out. That's all there is to actually prepping the blank. So let's chuck it up, take it over the lathe, and turn this. Now, I'm going to be actually using my new Easy Wood tools to turn this. I'm not going to talk too much about them in this episode, but just for those of you that are interested, I love these tools. They've kind of changed the way I turn, and look for a couple episodes in the future as I walk you through the various tools. So hold your questions for now. Oh, heck, ask questions in the comments all you want. Happy to answer them, but just look for a couple of videos in the future where I talk a little bit more about some of their features. But you get an idea of how they work just by watching me turn a pepper mill. Let's get over to the lathe. Now that the expanding drum is secure, come over here to the lathe, and I've got a Jacob's chuck set in my headstock. I'll kind of just ever so slightly tighten this up so it's a little bit, it holds it somewhat securely. And what I want to do is I've got a conical drive center that I can slide up, and it fits right into the hole there and just kind of snugs things up. Now with that in place and kind of holding things square, I'm going to go ahead and cinch down the Jacob's chuck. And I'll just apply a little bit of pressure on this end. Not much at all. Lock that in place. Of course, it's always a good idea when you first chuck something up to kind of stand off to the side, flip it on, make sure you're nice and secure. And you can see, there's going to be some vibration. There's a little bit of wobble, but for the most part, I've got a pretty good square mount here. So I'm going to set my tool rest in place. And with these Easy Wood tools, you want to set your tool rest so that you're kind of level with the center of rotation. And I'm a little high. Just want to drop this down just a bit. And that looks good. So let me grab my face shield here. Grab a respirator. This is walnut. It can certainly cause, most wood can cause respiratory issues, but I find that walnut can be particularly nasty when the chips are flying and things. So I'm going to mask up. Obviously, I can't really talk then, so we'll just enjoy this nice song. Okay, we want to put together our finished form. And now that it's turned, you can see why I wanted to pre-drill the holes in the bottom for the bottom grate, because now it's really difficult to grasp. I could probably get a clamp around this, but I don't want to mar this surface. So the very first time I did this, I forgot to pre-drill the holes because it actually doesn't say that in the instructions that come from Penn State. So I had actually wrapped it in a piece of t-shirt and clamped it in my Moxon vise over here, and it worked. It didn't hold it real steadily, but fortunately, you know, an egg beater drill doesn't put a huge amount of torque on things. So definitely want to pre-drill that first. So from here, you want to pull everything out of the packet, and you've got this central mechanism that is the actual grinder itself. Here's the bottom grating, 2 screws that go with it, the top handle, and the adjusting nut. First thing I want to do is take my handle and actually slip it into the top, and this should be a really snug fit. Then you slide this assembly into the base, and the 1 1/16 inch drill bit, it makes for a perfect fit. Now these mechanisms have notches on the bottom, and you want to line that up with your pre-drilled holes. Bring it up to the screw comes through the top, and just cinch the adjusting nut down. And what that does is pull the grind mechanism flush and tight in here so that you're not fighting that as you install the screws. And you're being your bottom grate in place, the projecting part facing out. And drop the screws in the holes. The problem with doing this in walnut is everything is so dark. These are pretty tiny screws, but a #1 Phillips head will fit in them. And they're steel screws, so you don't have to worry about, you know, the typical brass screw shearing off and things like that. And that's it. There's the pepper mill. To fill it, you just undo the adjusting nut up top and pop the handle off, and you fill it in through the top. To adjust the grind, whether you want coarser salt or pepper or finer, it's just a matter of moving this adjusting nut in and out. And what that does is pull the grinding mechanism into the grinder is basically kind of a conical shape that fits in a reverse conical shape, and the more you snug that cone up inside its housing, the finer it grinds things. So when you got it nice and loose, there's plenty of room for you know, pepper and or salt to fit through the bottom. And there we go. 1 pepper mill. That's 4 pepper mills down, and what, 4 more to go. So grab some blanks of wood, start drilling, and bon appetit. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the new year.